Let's go! So, we got some new PvP changes, well, class changes and PvP changes coming to the game next week. And these, I can't even speak straight, man. I'm so excited. These were needed for so long now. The season's been dying off, but you know your boy Marcus is still playing the game. I ain't playing that Diablo stuff or whatnot. I'm here. I'm grinding through, and let's get into it because this game is going to get better. All right? So, we're going to go through the class changes here and the PvP changes, and I am happy because there are so many good ones here. There could have been more, but this was most of it, I want to say. Thank goodness DKs were buffed. JK, it was just blood DK. Honestly, DK is kind of embarrassing right now. It's really bad outside of just like Frost DK cheese goes. But anyway, tier set changes for Feral. Not really that big of a deal. Slight buffs to them. Preservation Evoker. This was completely unnecessary in PvP. PvE, maybe they needed it, but honestly, Disintegrate does way too much damage in PvP. I will have to break out the Preservation Evoker in 2s again, I guess. Like, this shit was doing so much damage, like up to 100k or 100 to 150k in burst windows with a lot of haste. Kind of insane. In one cast spot, mind you. Beast Mastery, all damage increased by 5%. We don't like that, but I hate that they just buff pets, man. They need to rework BM, but anyway. They're not really that popular right now, so it's probably not the craziest deal. More of a deal in 2s. Fire Mage, bunch of buffs in PvE. The only one that applies to PvP is Scorch, so really nothing crazy there. Brewmaster buffs. Those are kind of big, honestly. Mistweaver, nothing. All healing increased by 3%. Does not apply to PvP. Rogue, 5% buff. This is interesting. I was actually playing with an Rogue yesterday, and his overall damage was really high. I really wish they would just, again, kind of rework the damage breakdown where it's not just Garrote and Rupture is like 75% of your damage. Kind of weird. Get some poison gameplay in there, some Envenom gameplay. I don't know. It feels kind of weird. Warlock, the frequency of Amplified Curse has been problematic PvP, so its cooldown has been increased. These changes are also noted in the PvP section. Good. Amplified Curse was a little bit ridiculous, especially with Curse of Tongues. If you had no Curse to spell, it was really ridiculous. And Seasonings of the Satyr, so increasing the cooldown of it a little bit more as well. Warrior, note Arms Warriors have been not performing as well as we like in single target, so all Arms Warrior damage increase. Fatality, Fatal Mark. Honestly, I'm all for it, man. I hate versing Fury Warriors, and I don't think anyone. I'm pretty sure all Warrior mains prefer to play Arms too. So I mean, get me at it because like Sharpened Blade you can play around. Fury Warriors just like. They have ridiculous mobility, and they just constantly have this 40% MS on you, and it's just very oppressing as a healer, especially a Disc Priest who like can't move at all, and you just can never get the stacks up. And then some Prop Pally buffs, or Prop Warrior buffs, rather. Okay, this is the big kahunas. Here we go, the big changes here. So Balanced Druids have been overperforming due to their ability to generate Astral Power so fast. The AP was actually ridiculous. When I was playing my Boomy, I'm like always capped on AP. Deal high amount of damage with Starfall. Honestly, even without Starfall, it's not that, like, the dot damage is actually the crazier part than the Starfall damage. Like to reduce the effectiveness of the playstyle, difficult for opponents to stop. Golden Fang has also become more effective. Yep, 100%. And include, finally, Owlkin Adept has been a locked-in talent for a while. That's the Fast Cast Cyclone. Okay, so reducing AP generation by Moonfire Sunfire. Stellar Innovation increases AP generation, so just reducing a ton of astral generation. Honestly, man, from my perspective, this isn't going to change that much. The damage is mostly, I guess it will. It's going to impact the Starfall build a lot more than Star Surge builds. So, we'll see. Alkanat up reduced by 10%. Not that big of a deal. But Alkanat is 100% a problem in combination with Precog. Because it's like, would you kick the 1 second cast or half a second cast Cyclone and have the chance to miss and give them Precog? And then everyone gets cloned 3 times. You know, it's kind of bad. Golden Fang, reducing PvP, 100% necessary. On multiple occasions, especially if you stack Mastery as a Boomkin, it's affected by Mastery. I was hitting Golden Fangs that are more than the Star Surge themselves. A little bit ridiculous, like 100k procs, which is stupid. But, yep. And then they're kind of compensating by buffing Wrath and Starfire by 10%. Fair enough. I don't think this is going to really change their position. I think they're going to be kind of in the same spot when it comes to damage output. Maybe a little bit worse, but pretty much the same, I think. Because like they're not touching the dot damage, which is really high. Marksmanship Hunter, huge buffs. Basically 10% buffs across the board. These are basically their only 3 abilities that do anything. And That's pretty insane. I've seen some really crazy bursts. But to be fair, there's also I versus did a solo shuffle yesterday actually with the marksman hunter in it, and he was free casting the entire game and was still doing less damage than a Destrolock getting trained. So to be fair, they probably were lacking. This is the one I am absolutely hyped for. This is what I've been preaching. You guys watch my stream. I play Discipline Priest a lot, and this is what I was hoping for, man. So if you guys are living under a rock, you haven't been playing this season, Disc Priests, so I'm going to give you an analogy. Disc Priests have shifted towards the Guardian Affinity playstyle. If you're familiar with Shadowlands, where most Wrestle Druids were like... I'm so toxic. They were Guardian Affinity players that just ran away. They're scared, like, yeah, get away from me, you know, kind of thing. And it's just like, dude, you could outplay the crap out of people, but it didn't matter, like with Feral Affinity or something, and it didn't matter because the Guardian Affinity playstyle was so strong. And this is kind of carried over to Disc Priest, where since they buff shield so much, Discipline Priests literally just forgot their Discipline Priests. They thought now they think they're Holy Priests. And all they do is press shield and run and hide. And they like it's actually crazy that there are Disc Priests like significantly higher rated than me that don't even press Purge of the Wicked. They have like, and they don't use Atonement at all. And it's kind of infuriating to me because I'm like doing all this crazy stuff and it's worse. Like you're literally better off doing less and just pressing shield on cooldown. So I'm really, really happy that they're nerfing Power Word Shield, and they're compensating with, I kept saying this, nerf shields, buff Atonement by the same amount. They did kind of nerf shields a little bit more than that, but the shields were a little bit crazy, so we'll see. The one thing I don't know if that's going to be a good idea is Inner Light getting nerfed at the same time as nerfing the Power Word Shields. That might be a lot to kind of crunch them off. We'll have to see how these Mistweaver nerfs are. If the Mistweaver nerfs are enough, we'll be fine. If Mistweaver is still good, we're just fucked. Because Disc Priest is just really... Disc Priest is very good, but it's still severely lacking compared to a Mistweaver Monk. Mistweaver Monk blows everybody out of the water. So I'm really happy about this. I'm going to have to make a future video on maximizing your Atonement healing, because people need to learn to stop playing Guardian Affinity. I'm so passionate about that. So Fire Glass Cannon has been doing have a higher risk and higher reward than its gameplay. We feel its risk is too low for the benefit. So they're basically decreasing your health by another 5%. I think this should have been comboed with an additional nerf to the Ignite damage. I think Ignite's just absolutely absurd right now. If you're triple stacked behind a pillar, your entire team could just randomly die to a dot, and it's really frustrating to deal with as a team because sometimes there is nothing you can do. They're triangle formationing you, a Fire Mage, a Destrolock, and just you're forced behind a pillar, and then because you're forced behind the pillar, all three of you are taking a ridiculous amount of damage. I'm kind of cool with the Glass Cannon getting buffed a little bit on the damage, reducing your health, but they should have been comboed that with Ignite nerf, in my opinion. Flame Cannon now increases your max health by 2%. Okay, so you're also nerfing their health even more, potentially. Mistweaver Monk, man, these things have been overperforming, but I'm really hyped about these. Mistweaver have been overperforming, absolutely. Soulfang Infusion now generates 75% mana. Okay, so the mana getting nerfed. Zenfier's now costs 0.5% mana. I don't know what it cost before. Enveloping Mist now heals. This is the big one. If you guys are familiar with how Mistweavers heal, like literally between 20 and 50% of their healing is literally from Enveloping Mist. Because you have Enveloping Mist, and then you have Overflowing Mist, which is like a percentage of your health that's getting healed. So like literally those two abilities, which all is basically one ability, has been doing over 50% of their healing, which is just never should be the case of any class. I mean, you know, on the same part, that's what Power Word Shield was kind of doing as well. So I'm really glad they nerfed that. Mistweaver Monks now generate 50% mana. Really interesting, okay? Well, don't forget, most Mistweavers don't even have the tier set yet, which is going to buff their mana even more. So these changes may not really have too much of an impact on their mana. The one that's really going to make an impact is definitely the Enveloping Mist nerf. That was much, much needed. Okay, so Windwalker Monks, Whirling Dragon Punch has been increased by 80%. Interesting. I don't know if they even took this. I'm not too familiar. But Windwalker Monks do some serious bursts, I gotta say. I think the second that the caster meta gets nerfed, Windwalker Monks are just going to go nuts. Like, they do a lot of damage. The problem is that, like, the second they go in, they have to run away again because they're taking so much damage. So we'll see what happens with that. Enhancement Shaman has definitely been doing way too much burst damage. A few talents that leading to fast kills. Excellent. Took them a little bit too long in this. Forceful Winds nerf is now 75. Okay, nerfed by 25% in PvP combat. Forceful Winds was revolving around their Wind Fury procs, I believe. The damage increase from Lava Lash is now 30. Good, because I've been seeing over 200k Lava Lashes. That's a little bit ridiculous. Lavash now deals. Okay, so they nerfed the modifier, but then they buffed the baseline. Okay, I think that's okay because the modifier is probably the problem. I assume that's what WoW damage always the problem is. Physical damage increase from Feral Spirit is now increased. Is now 33% effective in PvP combat. Okay, so they're nerfing the Feral Spirit. The Fire, Frost, Lightning damage increase from Elemental Spirits is now 50%. Good. So what was happening is they popped their wolves and it buffs all of their elemental damage, and then basically Lava Lash, Elemental Blast, Stormkeeper, like everything is just cranking because of the modifiers. Because you have these modifiers, stacking with these modifiers, and it was a little bit ridiculous. Storm Strike now deals 75% increase, so they're compensating by buffing Storm Strike. I think that's fair. Because you don't want to, take them out. Enhancement is just, it's usually like, it's always broken or not played at all. So I'm really glad they did compensate for the nerfs. Restoration Shaman is in a good spot. I would say so too. I think if you take down Disc Priest a little bit, you take down Mistweavers a little bit, Restoration Shamans are actually in a pretty good spot. I think I really wish they kind of shift a lot of their healing away from the totems and more into and like buff their casts even more, force them to cast, but nerf the healing or just I don't know. I feel like it's just a weird play style, man. It used to be a good thing back in the day. I feel like it never was this heavily reliant on totems though. It's kind of annoying, and then people are so easy to kill totems, so I can understand the frustrations. The only thing that I think that comes into play is most, like, literally only the top 0.1% of players actually kill totems. So it's not as big of a deal, but at the top end, if you ever watch like a rank 1 Resto Shaman streamer queuing at like a really high rating, it's just really frustrating that all your healing just gets completely negated. You get purged and they kill your totems, you're useless now. Sub-rogues have been a little bit ridiculous. I mean, a lot of it ridiculous. Burst damage has been higher than we'd liked. So they only nerfed Secret Technique by 7%, right? Or 8%. That's not enough, man. That needs to get nerfed even more, in my opinion. Secret Technique is literally everything. I think Secret Technique is doing around probably 250k per use. I mean, you combine it with Cold Blood and Shadow Dance. Shadow Strike and backstab damage from Weapon Master is now 50% effective. I'm not sure what that modifier is. Flying Ocean's Mastery bonus is 80% effective. Okay, well, Mastery I know is their best stat, so this might be a big modifier. I'm not sure how much. Dark Shadow is now 67% effective, so even more nerf to Dark Shadow. I'm not sure what Dark Shadow is. What is Dark Shadow? Increases Shadow Dance increases down to 15%. Okay, so they're nerfing that's a nerf to Shadow Dance. What is the other one? Weapon Master. 50% chance to hit the target twice. Oh, okay, cool. Because it's not, you want Sub-Rogue to be good and have the utility and like the stuns, but it should not have the burst damage that it does. I think they need to buff their sustain damage, nerf their burst damage, and they need to nerf Cheap Shot. I think Sub-Rogue would be in a better spot. The cheap shot not being affected by the CC changes has been just such a big impact, and why it just combos well with every OP class. You pair the OP class with the Sub-Rogue, you have an amazing comp. All right, Warlocks have been just absolutely crushing everybody. Inquisitor's Gaze has been a sizable portion of their damage. Complete RNG, so I'm glad they're nerfed. 40% nerf, that is a great nerf. There are definitely a lot of cases where Fel Barrage is doing their top damage, and it's a random proc, which feels bad as the Destrolock, and it also feels bad to lose to. So, that's a really good change to that. High frequency of Amplified Curse. Okay, so this we already read that. Affliction Warlocks. We're increasing the damage of UA's backlash. So they're increasing the backlash damage by 50%. That might be too much, man. They need to redesign Affliction. It just doesn't work right now. Like, they need burst or something. Like, it's just really dumb. Literally, how many times has UA been buffed, nerfed, buffed, nerfed? The Dispel, buffed, nerfed, non-crit, crit. Like, they need to change this, man. Maybe having Shadow Bolt buff will be good. Like, they need some sort of burst damage. Like, it just seems like they tickle the whole game, but then the other classes tickle the same amount, but then they also have burst potential or an MS. So it's like, UA's just in a weird spot. Like, they don't need more damage. Affliction Lock does enough damage. They need burst or stun or something to like set up a kill to like finish enemies off. They just like constantly tickling, and they're tickling less than classes like Boomy that can tickle and do burst damage at the same time. Destruction, sustained damage has been higher than we feel. Due to Shadowbird's multiplier, very good. Good job, Blizzard. So Conflag is getting nerfed by 6%, and Shadowburn getting nerfed by another 30%. So they did nerf this in the last like patch, but they nerfed it even more. Really good. Shadowburn is a stupid ability. It should not... Shadowburn should go back to being an execute. It should not be a replacement for Chaos Bolt and doing like 75% of a Chaos Bolt. It's stupid because you just... From a healer's perspective, like sometimes a Warlocks coming at you and they're literally... It looks like they're doing nothing, but you're just dying. Because they're can flag, Shadowburn. And like you're like, oh, what am I dying to? I don't even know. They have no cooldowns up. There's nobody casting. Why am I even dying? And it's just a really bad feeling. Destro needs to revolve around. I think they need to definitely get back to the casting. They should have really strong casts and have to cast, you know? Demonology, healing reduction has been one of the best healing reductions in the game. 100%. How easy it is to apply and how it can be applied to multiple targets at a time. Along with Affliction, we're also increasing the damage of Shadow Bolt. Okay, interesting. So 5% nerf to Legion Strike. Very good. It's just very oppressive. I think they need to nerf Felguard's damage even more and buff their actual damage. I am just a huge advocate of pets should not be a main source of damage. This applies to Beast Mastery or Demonology. Pets should be used for utility, and that's it. They should have minor damage, but pets are used for utility. It's such a terrible feeling to be behind a pillar, lining their burst, and you're just dying from you don't even know what. And you can't even CC the pet because there's 17 of them. If it was one pet that did all the damage, different story, you could CC the pet, right? It's just like such a crappy feeling. All right, well, that is all the changes we got, guys. These are awesome changes. I think Fire Mages should have got nerfed on their damage end. We'll see if the Mistweaver ones are enough. I really wish they buffed some classes as well. Like, I don't know if Holy Priest needs any more buffs, but H-Pal should have got buffed a little bit. Like, it kind of sucks that they have to wait until this next patch. As for healers, Resto Druid's kind of in an okay spot. I think when you bring down the other healers, Resto Druid's good. Outlaw Rogue and Unholy Decay still very underperforming. That should have got buffed, I think. Survival Hunter's kind of slipping through, by the way. The second these casters get dropped down, Survival Hunter's gonna crush it. I'm telling you, the class is so good, so much damage. And then Sub Rogue definitely got off pretty well as well. I think we'll see how much all like this mastery bonus has been affected and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really excited, man. This season's been dry and it's been no communication. So I'm really happy to see some more changes, especially with AWC coming up. So hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned, subscribe, like the video if you like this type of content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.